Okay, you know what? I was just gonna play like the whole first segment of the thing, but I just realized that that just goes on for too long, and people are just gonna think that this is like a SpongeBob clips video where it's just like all I do is like show a SpongeBob clip. So this is not gonna be a full theory. This is not gonna be like a fully fleshed out theory or anything. I don't have like a huge amount of evidence for it, especially because I'm talking about two of the characters in Deltarune we have very little information on right now. But I was kind of wondering, I just wanted to play that to sort of like set the mood of this video a little bit. I was kind of wondering, what if Gaster and Device Friend have like a very similar dynamic to Patchy and Potty? Right? What if they have like a very similar dynamic to them? Now, the train of thought that got me to think about this was like weird, because it was one of those trains of thought I came up with when I first woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like, huh, I want a cookie. And so I immediately thought of the scene from SpongeBob where like Potty ate all the cookie dough. And then somehow, in like my lucid state where I was still waking up, I thought about Gaster from Deltarune. And I thought about Gaster from Deltarune making cookies for like the player, but then like Device Friend comes in and eats all the cookie dough. And at first it's like, okay, that's a funny visual. That's a really funny visual. That's a good visual right there. That's pretty funny. But then I started thinking, Deltarune makes like 50 something SpongeBob references throughout the course of its events, right? It's just SpongeBob reference after SpongeBob reference after SpongeBob reference, and I'm sure it was like a big inspiration for like Toby Fox's style of humor. But also, like people looked at like the Board James references and they were like, huh, the story of Board James kind of relates to Deltarune in a few ways, a few significant ways. And so now I'm kind of thinking, what if Gaster's dynamic in the story is just Patchy the Pirate? Like, he just is the Patchy the Pirate of Deltarune. So, like, Patchy, right? He's portrayed as, like, a very passionate fan of the show. Like, he knows the characters well, and he's, like, excited to see their adventures and stuff. But he never gets to interact with any of the characters. He's, like, separated by the ocean, right? And so Gaster and Deltarune, like, we don't know where Gaster is. He could be trapped in the depths. He could just be off doing his own thing, like in the bunker or whatever. But it does seem like his role in the story is a role that can't really do a whole lot. He's like sort of off to the side. He's like in his own little sort of separated segment of the universe from like the rest of the Deltarunes. But he's very invested in seeing what happens. He's very invested in the story of Deltarune. Like, Gaster is the one who's like most excited to get you into the next chapter of Deltarune and see what you're gonna do, see what Chris and Susie and Rousey are gonna do, stuff like that, right? And so I'm kind of wondering, that's kind of similar to what Patchy does, right? So, like, Toby Fox on Twitter, he'll always, like, cosplay as Gaster or whatever and announce the release of Deltarune the next day. Patchy the Pirate is the one who announces, like, very big special episodes of SpongeBob before they start. That's sort of like his role in the story. He's meant to be a fan. He's meant to be, like, as big of a fan as you are, right? And so, like, Gaster's just as excited as the events of Deltarune as, like, the player is, probably. I imagine that's how they're, like, portraying it. Like, maybe Gaster is, like, the guy who watches the player play the game on YouTube instead of playing the game itself, maybe something like that, I don't know. But, like, it just does seem a little bit like that, And like Friend, he's also this very like mysterious sort of off to the side character. And people have sort of made jokes about like Device Friend being like Gaster's pet or whatever, like his pet cat. And so in SpongeBob, you have the dynamic between like Patchy and Potty, right? You have like the disgruntled pirate who's like very excited to see the show, but he gets frustrated with this much more chaotic, like smaller figure who makes fun of him a lot, you know. And it's like they're still watching the show together. They're still like part of the same like the part of the same like fan club, I guess. But it's like Patchy's sort of the one who sort of has like, what do I call Patchy egotistical? I mean, like people who declare themselves number one fans, I guess, is like there's a little bit to there, but then like Potty's the one off to the side having like this snarky attitude about it. He's very snarky towards Patchy, and he's very snarky about how extreme like Patchy gets during sometimes. So I don't know. It's like I could see there being something here. Also, yellow, purple. That's not. Green. You know what? This guy has the freedom motif too. This is kind of sort of meant to be like a jokey video. Like I'm not really taking this connection super seriously, but also at the same time, like I could see there being something there. Like maybe this is what gave Toby Fox like his visual of what Gaster's role would be, the super Deltarune fan who watches the events of the story play out. But Toby sort of gave the character his own personality, like a personality which is very different than Patchy the Pirate. Patchy the Pirate, he's kind of childish and very naive. Gaster seems more like a doctor, like he'd have like some level of maybe some greater level of intelligence than like Patchy would. But it's like I don't know. It was just a thought. But the other thing is, people were saying that Gaster's excitement really seems to be about us, right? Like our connection to the world, like getting to see us and what we do seems to be one of the things that Gaster's like super interested in. And Patchy's greatest desire in the series is to meet SpongeBob. That's like Patchy's greatest desire in the series. And he can't go meet SpongeBob because SpongeBob lives underwater. I mean, I think there were like some episodes to imply that SpongeBob is just a real character. And like Patchy can't just like go meet him if he has like some scuba gear or something. But they're separated, right? They're separated by like this barrier. And so that might be what's like going on in Deltarune, is that like Gaster's very interested in the characters but also very interested with us. And like in both directions there's sort of like a barrier preventing Gaster from like interacting with either of us, right? That might be why he wants the roaring to happen. He might want the roaring to happen so he can like get out of deep dark or whatever. I could see that. I could definitely see that. I don't know. For me, it was just like a funny visual, which I looked at and I thought maybe there's something more here. So I don't know, maybe someone else can like look into these connections a little bit more. Maybe try and find like some pieces of the lore about this. I mean, I know when you try to predict Deltarune lore based off of like their inspirations, it can get weird sometimes, and that was like the case with Watchy Field. That was like the case with Watchy Field. Like people were just thinking that Deltarune was just gonna do Watchy Field again, and it's like, And if Deltarune's story follows very similar plot beats to Watchy Field, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's like, I don't think Deltarune would just be Watchy Field again, or Mother again, or SpongeBob again. So like if you look at like the inspirations in this, you'd want to like take into consideration how Toby Fox's story is going to differ, because Toby does want to do his own thing and sort of express his own personality in the art that he makes, right? Um, so, I don't know. I just I just think it's a funny visual. At the end of the day, if this means nothing, at the very least, it's a funny visual. Now watch, Chapter 5 is going to come out in like 2 days, and it's just going to disprove the idea that Gaster and Friend have any connection whatsoever. Also, strings! Also, I forgot to mention strings. Right here, strings. Strings. Green strings. Green strings. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as well. Okay, bye.